Can you actually make money flipping property? Yes is the short answer. I'm here now at one of my current property flip projects. As you can see behind me, it's getting smashed to pieces, and this is going to be a complete refurb project. A little bit more than just a quick refurb. This one's going to have a layout change. So I'm adding a utility and downstairs toilet, and that is going to be a little bit more than just a quick refurb. But I'm going to be doing videos on this project. You'll get to see more information on this. But for now, I'm talking, is it viable to be flipping properties? Yes, absolutely. It's very profitable. You just need to know what you're doing. And it's all too easy to make mistakes when you're flipping property. If you're new to this, if you're a beginner, you want to get involved in flipping property for the first time, it's very important that you take the time. There's a bunch of things to consider, but the most important thing, you take the time to actually secure that next project at the right price. If you pay too much for that next project, then everything else becomes extremely difficult and you're up against it. Now, amateur property developers could buy a property and hope that the market value, the property value is going to go up. And if it does, maybe it gets them out of trouble if they've paid too much for the property in the first place. That's great, but it's not a strategy. That's buying and hoping, and that's definitely not something that you can do consistently. You can't be buying and hoping for the prices to go up. First of all, you're taking a punt and you won't always get it right. And secondly, you can't be buying consistently because there'll only be certain times where the property prices are going to be going up quickly in a short period of time. Now, of course, over the long term, they always go up, but in a short-term period, what you need to be able to do is become an expert of buying in any market. So even if prices are falling, you can flip because you've got that property at a great price. So you're able, if you need to reduce your price when it comes to selling the property and still make great profit on that deal. So how do you do that? Quite simply, you work backwards. Firstly, you need to understand what your end value is of the property that you're looking to do. So not the asking price. The asking price is irrelevant. Asking price can be set by an agent or a vendor or a combination of just overly optimistic expectations. So the price is irrelevant to you. Prices get reduced all the time. We don't care about price. What we've got to establish is end value. So what is that property going to be worth once it's done up? And in order to maximize that value, you're looking for ways to increase that property's value. Of course, when you add a brand new sparkling kitchen and bathroom and you've decorated it and you've put some new flooring in, all these things are going to increase the appeal. But you can also increase the appeal by adding bedrooms, by reconfiguring the property. You can, as I'm doing with this project, if it's feasible, adding downstairs toilets, downstairs utilities that aren't there before, making the kitchen more appealing. Those things can be done as well without massive cost. So finding ways to add the value is really important to maximize that end value. But it's important not to be overly optimistic on your end values. Make sure you've got conservative numbers and you don't just look at the sold price data. Now, sold price data is great on the likes of Net House Price, Rightmove, Zoopla. These sorts of portals can show you what prices have actually sold in a certain area. So if you're looking at a property, you can see on that same street and within, say, a quarter of a mile, what other properties are selling and what prices they get. That's brilliant. But also, there's a whole bunch of information that agents will have that won't be on that or those platforms just yet. So it can take a while for sold data or sold price data to filter through onto Land Registry and then onto these sort of portals. So you want to be speaking to agents because they might have had properties that have just gone under offer, that are going through the process, or that have sold that you might not know about. And that can give you a great indication of what values are being fetched at that time too. So make sure you're speaking to agents as well as looking at the sold price data. And then you're working backwards. So you know what your end value is, what your refurbishment cost is going to be. So that's getting multiple quotations from contractors who are going to be doing work, not just one, but multiple quotations. So you can understand what refurbishment costs are going to be in your area and on the type of property that you're looking at. So that's really important. No house is exactly the same when you're looking at the refurb costs. There's always going to be certain things that will be a little bit different compared to the last project that can determine what costs will be. So it's really important to get accurate numbers before you go ahead and buy a property. So getting those refurbishment costs accurate, factoring in all your buying and selling costs. So that includes your stamp duty, that includes your agent fees, that includes your building insurance, that includes holding costs. So you're going to get finance to purchase a property and to refurbish it, in which case you need to factor in what those costs of finance will be. So once you know all these numbers, it can give you the confidence to then determine what is your max offer. And of course, you need to determine how much profit are you looking to make on that deal. Now, there's a bit of subjectivity there. Some people have different ideas about this, but me personally, I like to be looking for a profit around 20% of the total cost. So for easy maths, if I'm in for 100K, let's say hypothetically, then a 20K profit would be a 20% return on investment. So that effectively is 20% of all money invested. Now, that is a pretty healthy profit margin in most cases. Some people look for less than that, but that allows me to, if I want to, if I need to reduce the price if I need to when it comes to sell that property and still make a generous profit, to factor in finance costs as well. So if I'm looking at a project and there's finance costs involved, then that will determine or impact greatly on what the profit's going to be. So you've got to factor all of that in as well. But once you become an expert at being able to analyze a deal and know what the end values are going to be, know what your refurbishment costs are going to be, know what your buying and selling costs is, and know how you get to, say, 20% return on investment or higher, then that becomes quite empowering when it comes to putting offers out on properties. You know what you need to offer, what your max offer is going to be. If it doesn't work, you move on. And you keep doing that until you find a deal that works. The vast majority of properties that you will look at will not work. Quite simply, the sellers will be wanting more than what you should be paying as the developer who's going to be coming in and flipping that property for a margin. Because some people looking to buy a property just want to live there, and so they're not thinking about the margin, the profit, in the way that you're thinking about it. So you've got to factor that in. Most properties will sell for more than what you should be willing to pay, and it's a numbers game, and you've got to keep persisting until you find the right deal. So aside from that, if you can calculate your deals correctly and your end values and your refurbishment costs, making sure that the refurbs are done correctly so they're not going to be dragging on for months on end, so you do them quickly, because the quicker you do them, the quicker you're onto that next project. And time is money when it comes to property flipping. So you've got to have a good team that you can manage effectively, that can get a project done quickly. And when it comes to selling that project, you're not getting overly greedy. You're pricing it correctly, even in some cases, perhaps a little bit lower than what it's worth to get that quicker than normal sale so you can move on to the next project. Now, you don't want to be screwing yourself over and selling it way too cheap, but in some cases, it's better to accept a little bit less to get that property moved on than waiting 6 months or more to sell it and it's still stuck on the market because you've overpriced it. You could have done another deal by then, realistically. So you've got to think about time is money and opportunity cost when it comes to flipping property. So hopefully that information is useful for you in finding that next property flip project. If you've enjoyed this video, if it's helped you in some way, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and you will see me again in the next